the beautiful Dr. Rhona Eskander.
Stop it. Thanks. Hi, guys.
So I'm going to dive straight in, Rhona. Everybody knows about your struggle, how it was difficult through primary school, dental school, V2. Did you really want to be a dentist that bad that you pushed so much?
Oh my God, was it that obvious in my post? Yeah, it's a really interesting question for me because I'm just one of these people that nothing ever comes easily to. And I know before we started filming, we had a little chat about Invisalign, which we definitely should cover. But in short, I've always come from a medical background. So my dad's a doctor. He came to the UK at 21 with like £10 in his pocket. Did that whole sort of being an immigrant in the UK and worked himself into medical school. So I was always very positively impacted by my dad's journey. And being Middle Eastern, it was like, what are you going to do? Be a doctor, a dentist, an engineer, and there's no other options. I mean, my sister was so good at art. And literally, my dad was like, she's like, Dad, I want to be an artist. And he was like, for what? To be one of these people painting caricatures in Piccadilly Circus, you know? So it was hilarious because there was just no other option. But when I went to go visit my aunt in America, I was really inspired by her and how she impacted patients' lives and the relationships she was forming. And I wanted to be a dentist since I was 11, but I was just never that academic. Yeah. So for me, it was like I had to really, really work hard. And that struggle still continues, if I'm completely honest with you.
Yeah. So you're working really hard now as well.
Yeah.
So what have you been up to this last month?
My main focus is about patients and connecting with them, and everything around my social media presence and everything I do is to empower the public and change their perceptions of dentistry and how they view dentists. And that actually has resulted in them really valuing their smiles. So in the past month, I have done a lot of lecturing, and I think the highlight of my career was being asked to speak on be the first talk of the International Congress for Align Technology, also known as Invisalign. So I was their opening speaker, and you know, I always get asked to talk about the emotional side of dentistry. So when people ask me to lecture, it's always about patient experience and how to kind of gain that respect and trust from patients and how they get that from dentists and so forth. This in particular was about Invisalign's new product, which allows patients to see their kind of before and after. And the way that I interpreted that talk was so much more than, okay, here's an app and this is how you use it. And it was about how to connect with that patient emotionally and how to give them that experience. The other thing that I have done is that I write a lot of articles. So a lot of journalists want to know about certain treatments, and they get really shocked, you know, like, we do so much bonding all the time, but they are so mystified. They're like, what is this, like shellac for the nails, you know?
I saw that.
And, you know, and I come up with these little analogies to make them understand, and therefore it increases their awareness. So it's all about connecting with the public, because I think as dentists, we just assume that people understand what we're talking about, but they haven't gone to dental school. So bonding for us is like, it's been around for years, but now it's become such a popular treatment because awareness around it has increased. So I spent a lot of time writing articles, doing lecturing, particularly for Invisalign, and recently finished my aligner diploma therapy. So that was a really big thing for me, because going back to academia and studying, oh my God, exams were like hideous. I was like, I can't believe can you imagine doing finals again?
No, I can't do that.
Yeah, so it was really hard, and Dr. Raman was like asking all these really technical questions. So for me, that was really difficult. But on top of that, I think it's worth mentioning that a lot of my patients, you know, the ones that are great influencers, they invite me to their events. So a lot of them collaborate with other brands, fashion brands, for example, or they throw kind of a ladies' lunch and things like that. And they always invite me as a dentist, and I'm sat there with people in like fashion and, you know, people that are doing stuff in the beauty industry. And it's really great because they're like, I can't believe you're a dentist, because they almost think that they wouldn't mesh with you on that level, but
so boring.
But teeth is like a thing they are interested in. And I think they're more like, I've been going through a journey with them, because often my treatments are quite long because it involves short-term ortho, long-term ortho, whatever you want to call it. So they love me being part of their sort of world, and I think that's really great to be able to go to these events and meet new people all the time.
So is it stressful treating influencers? You treat a lot of influencers.
Yeah. It's so funny because so many people are like, what is an influencer and what they do? And I think I first really got introduced to it last year, and I really want to talk about the positive impact that it's had on my practice. I was contacted by two influencers, Beauty and the Blog and Melissa's Wardrobe, and they asked me to come in, and they were like, oh, do you want to do collaborations? I was like, who are you and what is a collaboration? I don't do that. And I said, look, you can come in for a free chat. And I didn't really know, and I think it's really difficult because you can't really tell if they have, authentic followers or anything like that. Melissa came in first, and she documented her entire tooth journey. And we didn't do anything for free, but we did it at a discounted rate, and she documented everything. And as a result, I still see about 4 patients a week till this date from her. But what was really interesting about Melissa is that she opens up a door to a different type of cohort of patients. So she treats, for example, a lot of Afro-Caribbeans, and a lot of them started coming to me. And, I think what people fail to understand is that if you have an influencers like Beauty and the Blog and like Melissa who have an authentic following and engagement is good, it's just like old school dentists getting people through word of mouth, but this is the digital word of mouth. So someone that has a good experience documents it, they put it on a social media platform, and the amount of people that it reaches is way more than you just telling your group of friends on a Saturday night. But it's because people trust people, right? So if they're telling you it's great, and if people believe her, it's been one of the most powerful things to building this practice.
Well, you did a poll, didn't you? Where you asked people what they thought influencers, and did they trust them?
So what was it? Okay, so can I just talk about how that poll was totally skewed because a lot of dentists voted. They're like, no, don't trust influencers. I'm like, cheers, guys. Like, I'm not asking you. But what I found is that so a lot of them said they don't trust them.
Yeah.
But then I got a lot of private messages off the back of that saying, but I do trust Melissa, but I do trust Michelle. That's Beauty in the Blog. So interesting because I found...
Which influencer?
Yes, it's the thing is, and I said, what makes you trust them? And they said, because when something is rubbish, they let me know about it. They don't sugarcoat it. They're not going to do like paid ads for no reasons. They're like fronting products that they understand.
Yeah.
And further to that, some people said, I love the way that you interact with your own patients and the influencers. So they feel that it's real and authentic. So I think they're the ones. So I think it's about getting the right type of person and ensuring that they represent you and your brand properly.
So you're talking about dentists voting. So you are very much aware of how these dental academics feel about Instagram influencer dentists. What is your views on how they feel about dental influencers?
So I think that's a really important question because you're not the first person also that's asked me to speak. I got asked to speak at King's a couple of months ago because a lot of the young dentists were aspiring to be what they call an Instagram dentist.
Absolutely.
Now, the old school dentists will say like, oh, the Instagram dentists don't understand about academia, as you said, what they're doing is not necessarily what we are in alignment with. But I think that there is about balance. And I tell those young dentists that I almost fell into Instagram. I see my practice manager in the background. She'll know my story. When I came to Chelsea, I was brainstorming ways about 4 or 5 years ago about how to get more patients to the practice, and I had my own friends who were like in food, fashion, beauty, and they were doing the Instagram thing, the early days, right? And I said, why don't we try this platform and see what happens? Okay. Luckily, also at the time, a TOWIE star came to me and she said, oh, have you got an Instagram? Because I'll like tag, what I'm having done. And that started rolling on, and I noticed that it could have a positive effect. And I was dedicated to spending time on my Instagram to spread awareness, not because I wanted to be famous on Instagram.
So more marketing.
It was more to spread awareness to the patients so that they understood what treatments were available and what was out there. Not even so much about marketing, but awareness, okay? So when people say to me, oh, I want to be Instagram famous, you're never going to be successful because that's like saying to someone, I want to be rich. Like, that's not a reason. Yeah. You need to actually have a proper goal. So for example, I'm one to always listen to TED Talks and learn off the back of things. And, me and my team here will bounce off each other by listening to certain TED Talks. And one of the most influential ones for me was one by Simon Sinek called Know Your Why. I don't know if you know it. And it's all about people don't care what you do, they don't care how you do you do it, but they care why you do it. And if your why is something like, I want to be famous or I want to be rich, you'll never get there, because that's not coming from within. That's not the essence of why people have things that just come to them. So for example, for me, I just told you my why for starting the whole Instagram thing was I want to spread awareness in a positive way. I want patients to feel connected to dentistry. I want patients to see the value in having a smile. And then the other stuff becomes secondary, you know, then more people know about you, more people talk about you. That, you know, gives you a higher profile. And that was the same for like the journalists that met me and liked all the pieces that I was talking about, because they could tell it was coming from a place of, I want people to know about this and I want them to be aware of the decisions they're making.
So your reason, or how you grew your following, was the why, knowing your
why. Totally. The why was everything.
So you've been featured across a lot of media platforms. We've touched upon a few, but Forbes, Vogue, The Telegraph, BBC. So how did you get involved with them?
So I used to work in High Street Kensington, and that was opposite Daily Mail and a lot of places, a lot of journalist buildings. And what happened is that we treated a lot of patients. They just come in for checkups and so forth. And I built a really nice rapport with quite a few of them, and they really liked me. And I was just quite ballsy. So the one thing about me is like, you don't ask, you don't get. And that's kind of my philosophy. So I was like, oh, do you know, like how, and I just said, and I remember coming in and I told Josh, I was like, I want to be featured in magazines. I want to spread awareness. I want people to know stuff. I want to write because I love writing as well. And she was like, okay. And so when the journalists would come in, I'd be like, have you ever thought about writing about like this with teeth? And a lot of the journalists were like, teeth are just not a sexy thing to write about. It's just not things that people want to read about. And I was like, I can make it really cool. So a lot of them, I broached them with subjects. I'd write like a nice page, really clear, being like, this and this can do this, you know, like teeth can be anti-aging, you know, we can expand an arch, we can do this. And they're like, oh, this is so interesting. So they were really interested, and they started publishing things. One journalist would do one thing, then they'd tell another one, and there was a bit of a knock-on effect. And then I eventually got so busy that I couldn't really manage all the publications and articles and follow up all the journalists. So I actually did employ someone to take that from me, because the busier you get, the less time you have. I know you joked, being like, do you need a PA when you saw me in action? So I was like, I don't at all, but I mean, you have to start delegating appropriately, because the more stuff you're doing, if you want to grow, you need to recognize that you need to give the other tasks to people that you don't have time for.
Because that's what I was wondering, where do you find the time and the energy to do all of this media, dentistry, everything? You know,
it's hard, and I'm really open and honest that it's really important to protect your mental health and mind, because you can overwhelm yourself. Dentistry is so mentally demanding, because not only are you managing patients, you're managing also like the clinical aspects of what's going on, the expectations, you know, the team, what goes on inside the room. Like there is just a million things to manage, but adding like social media, I just make sure I'm really consistent. Like consistency is key. So for example, I know that I post every single morning. So the first thing that I do when I get up, I try to meditate for 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, because I just try to kind of make sure they've cleared out all the noise. And then I will look at doing a post. And if you look at my Instagram, you know, I've got one post, I have a column on teeth, a column on articles, and a column on like personality based stuff, and I make sure that I post accordingly to what my grid shows. It takes me like 5-10 minutes, you know, I keep the captions pretty short, you know, make sure to use the hashtags, and then I post. And as I'm doing stuff during the day, I just put content on my stories, and I don't think too much about the curation, because stories again is about authenticity. You just capture things as they are. Like you don't need to worry about being camera ready or like curation, because that's what people want to see. And I don't find like the actual posting and stuff too stressful. I think the only thing that has probably been stressful for me is more the judgment of other dentists, not patients. And I think that that's I did a post recently on this, being like, sometimes you scroll through other people's Instagrams and you think that you're not good enough. And I think that everyone has a bit. Yeah, totally. And I think that, you know, from my side, I'm always thinking about how to improve myself more clinically, and clinical dentistry has never come easy to me. I'm not one of these people that's like born with like a drill out of the womb like Minesh Patel that can kind of like make amazing. And you know, like the thing is that I wish I was that person, but I'm not. It takes me much longer to master something clinical. And for me, like, sometimes I feel like at the mercy of judgment of other dentists, and I speak to my team about it as well. And like, you know, they're like, but your patients love you, and we know you're doing great dentistry, and we love your work. And I'm like, you know what, like, you can't please everyone. And I think ultimately I decided I wanted to be a dentist that is there for patients, not other dentists. And I think that the connection that I've got with patients is really, really strong. They feel like they're coming to see a friend, you know, which is exactly what I want. And, you know, when I get DMs saying, oh, thanks so much for that explanation on that article, I loved it, keep writing your articles, it's so good to understand what's going on. That's the reason why I do things that I do.
So how do you cope with the burnout?
So coping with the burnout, I'm still working on it, if I'm honest with you. And I think the thing is that people say it's so great to be in demand, but I think there's always a danger, because I want to be able to give patients all the attention they need. And I'm in a position at the moment where the appointments are too short because the patients all want to be seen. And a lot of patients are millennials, like they know what they want it now, and they're not going to wait, you know. And so I think the problem is that I've become so busy, I'm not happy with the amount of time, and I'm ending up working really late. And I sort of said to myself, what makes me happy? So I have kind of certain values that I don't want to breach. So for me, for example, like going to the gym is sacred. That's my kind of, it's like my drug in terms of it makes me feel good. It's something I don't want to compromise on. So first thing in the morning, I have to go to the gym. Yoga is really important to me, once or twice a week, just to make sure that I've got that quiet time in my mind. Meditation and traveling. So I basically say I cannot have those values breached. Those things in my life still have to stay no matter how busy I get. And if I feel like I can't maintain any of those things, I need to reassess things and move things around. So what I do is that, for example, at the moment, I'm so busy that I'm like, right, I need to expand the team. So in the future, I'm looking at buying my practice, looking at employing other people as well to help me. I always say it's really important to be a master of your trade and not a jack of all trades. So I pretty much now am known for my alignment via Invisalign. I'm also known for bonding and then doing minimal preparation veneers. And I have patients that come in and they don't have stable back teeth, and I'm like, listen, I can do your back teeth, but I'd recommend that you go to my associate or you go somewhere else, because I don't have time to focus on that, and I want to focus on what I'm good at and be amazing at that. Does that make sense? You know, and you know, so for me now, I'm at a stage where I'm already giving away that work, so I want to be able to like build a really strong team around me to be able to do that. And at the moment, I have an amazing team, but I definitely see myself as like doing more leadership stuff in the future, because I love doing that.
Yeah, because you've kind of honed into your skills now. So do you still find any parts of dentistry still stressful, seeing it sounds like you've filtered it out into your niche now?
I do, because things can go wrong. It's biology at the end of the day. You've got unpredictability of tissues, about patient compliance. You know, there's things that are very stressful. I think also there are times where you feel like you're in the public eye in a way, in some senses, and you're like, I have to keep up everything. I have to keep up. And as you said, it's like not only the devil of comparison, as you mentioned before, but that whole thing of like strive, go. And like once you've reached something, you want to reach something else, like that. You don't want to just like sit in the moment. And I'm like, I think I want to try and remind myself that what I've achieved has been good enough. And you've got to all remind yourself of what we've all achieved. Like even getting through dental school, we should still be congratulating ourselves, you know. But it's like you don't have to grow after you've achieved one thing. You can actually be still in that moment and be like, you know what, I've done this, and be cool with it, and then move on to the next thing, you know, in a few months or a year or whatever it is, or even longer than that.
So what's your advice for the newly qualified dentists out there?
Do you know what? I think the newly qualified dentists, I would say to you guys, like there is absolutely no rush. It is not a goal to be an Instagram dentist. I didn't even know that was a thing. Can we please add? And that is not goals. Goals should be providing the best treatment for your patients, being safe with your treatments, and creating a happy life for yourself where you don't feel stressed all the time. That is goals. And if you've got happy patients and you do good clinical dentistry, which by the way takes time, I'm still very much at the beginning of like ultimate clinical like perfection. I think we're constantly learning that. Then the other things will come.
It's probably so stressful because people put you on this pedestal of perfection and you're like, no, I'm still growing.
Yeah, totally. And to be honest, Rabia, like there will be other dentists that will not like the clinical work that I do, and they might look at that, and that's okay, because that pushes me harder to be like, okay, you know what, I'm going to get really good at this clinically and I will show them that I can do this really well.
You show them.
Yeah.
You show them. So how did you become an ambassador for Invisalign? Because your face is everywhere. You're an Invisalign girl now.
That's so funny. You know what? And one of the managers that used to look after this practice had actually reminded me of this.
Yeah.
So, for example, when I first came to this practice, I came in being like, guys, I'm going on this course. There's this product called Invisalign and I think it's amazing. At the time, Invisalign wasn't that popular because people thought that the lab fees were just huge, that they didn't want to commit to. They are huge, but I really, again, I didn't think about all the monetary implications.
Yeah.
I thought about the why. I loved the product. It was clear. It fits in with the modern day patient. It's minimally invasive. The ethos behind the trays, I was like, believe in it, want to get into it.
Yeah.
So the cost didn't even bother me.
Yeah.
Then I basically started doing more and more, and I kept seeing those really annoying posters of all the consumers on there. And I turned around to my tertiary manager, my territory manager, and I said to him, I was like, I think dentists should be on those posters. And
don't ask, you don't get.
You don't ask, you don't get.
That's right.
And he said to me, Rhona, I'm really sorry, that's really weird. No one's ever asked that. That's never happened. And I was like, no, why don't consumers and dentists come together? Why do you have a separate platform for dentists and for like the professional one, and then a separate platform for consumers? Like, I don't get it. I was like, they should be together. I was like, don't you think that dentists should be the ones that are influencing people's decisions? Don't you think they should? And he was like, you're mad, and kind of like ignored me. And then when I was at the Dentistry show in Birmingham in May, as you know, it was like such a surreal moment, but all my pictures stuff. And, you know, Aaron turned around to me, my territory manager, and he said, do you remember when you said to me 4 years ago that you wanted to be, 4 years ago.
They had you down and like, we want her.
No, but that's the whole thing. Like, people just assume that because of a certain, it's like this stuff takes years to manifest. My profile has taken years to manifest. It's not an overnight thing, but it's like, I had a vision, I wrote it down, and then I let it happen. So for example, the whole consumer thing, I worked my way in. So the more professional stuff I was doing with Invisalign, I would say to the professional team, can I meet the consumer team? Can I meet the consumer team? And then I met the consumer team and I was like, I believe in X, Y, and Z. And then a year later, they came back to me and were like, right, let's make this happen. And they're just about to release, they've just released these interactive, what's it called, like stalls in Westfield.
Yeah, I saw you.
And they're gonna, and they've asked me to be part of that, which is amazing because patients aren't interacting with influencers, but also dentists, and that you get to ask your dentist the questions on the interactive screens, which is great.
It didn't make sense to me. Why do you need Invisalign in Westfield? Like, confused.
The thing is that they just wanted, Invisalign are always a step ahead of the game, and they want to make sure that patients always come to, like, remember, direct-to-consumer models have been around for such a long time. So you think like things like Deliveroo and Uber and laundry app, and we all want things to come to us. So Invisalign are part of that vision as well. So they're like, okay, we're in a pod, we're coming to you. So if you've got questions, we can like give you the answers. But they will always, the dentist is still involved. So what they'll do is they'll just empower the patient and then send them to the dentist.
So you get all this free stuff. How do you pick what to take, what not to take, or just take it all? I just take it all.
Hilarious.
I'm willing to take all the stuff.
Nothing in life is for free, girl. Let me tell you that. The thing is, nothing is for free, but you got to remember that certain things are discounted or maybe gifted on the basis that you review their product. And I think that I would never be behind something that I don't agree on. So for me, for example, Murad asked me to be part of their skin wellness.
But their stuff is good though.
But their stuff is ethical too. It's like against animal testing, it's cruelty free, it's got a doctor behind their formulas. Like it's all the ethos that I believe in. So for me, it's about like spreading awareness about the brands that I understand. Like I just told.
I'm glad you did Run actually. I actually started using their stuff after you recommended it.
Really?
My skin improved. Like
so amazing, isn't it? Oh, that exfoliator is everything. Yeah. Yes, so good. So good. But the other thing is that like, for example, with Invisalign, I've had loads of like orthodontic companies try and like try my line, and like, no way. They're much cheaper or something like that, but I believe in this brand. This is the brand that I'm going to stick behind.
You also got stuff like Regenerate.
Yeah. So I've done stuff with Regenerate in the past, and again, I like the kind of like the sensitivity that they help with. So it really worked well for my cosmetic patients that were whitening. Same with stuff that I've done with Sensodyne too. Yeah. So just collaborating with brands that I believe in pretty much.
So this is my rapid fire round. It's not always rapid actually. Me and George took our time, but let me just go through this. Okay. So first word that comes to your mind when I say influencer.
I'm really bad at this. Do we have to do this? I'm really bad.
We're already going.
It's like what's that game? Articulate?
I'm wicked at that game.
Yeah, it's really bad at that. Okay, so what you said when influencer, happy.
Holiday?
A holiday. Hot?
Yes, yeah, it's bloody hot today. That's why this is not glow, this is sweat, guys. Okay, teeth.
Life.
Yeah, agreed. Money.
Freedom.
Chocolate.
Comfort. I binge eat, by the way, in case anyone knows. Everyone's like, oh my god, she must not eat. Like, I'm a all or nothing. I basically eat an entire cake or only eat one slice.
I do that too because of the cavity thing, right? You gotta eat all your sugar in one go.
No, more just because I have no self-control, but we'll go with that.
Okay. Alright, alternative career option. You can't be a dentist, you can't be a doctor, you can't be a pharmacist.
TV presenter. You've stolen my freaking light.
Do you know, I'm not a very good TV presenter, so you can totally take my job. Okay. So, if you had one wish, and it can't be for more wishes, what would you ask for?
I'm thinking.
Rapid fire.
Okay, no, right. Okay. So one wish would be for ultimate freedom of the mind. So what I mean by that is that you are, no matter what happens, in terms of whatever situation you are in, your mind is so at one with what you're thinking that you do not get stressed about it. So, you know, one of these kind of like Zen people.
So you like meditate and float kind of stuff.
Meditating float, but ultimate happier. So like, you know, like the building could just crash there and we'd be like, this is chilled. We are learning from the experience.
That's what drugs does to you. Don't take drugs, please.
You know, I'm telling you, you might find me as a monk in my later life, okay? That will be goals, you know?
Shaved head. So, most embarrassing incident with a patient?
Oh God, Josh, can you think of anything?
There's so many funny things.
Really?
So many. She's like, there's nothing, like, what could it be? And she's like, there's 100.
Yeah, but it's always really funny when we have like, I guess in particular like male patients who are very excited to see.
Oh, I forgot to ask you that, you know.
And then they get a little bit like they blush and they're sort of overwhelmed.
That is not true.
And that was
That's hilarious.
Do you know what? I did get DM when I put on my story about what they'd like to know about Rhona. I was thinking, okay, how does she do her bonding? How does she do her forms? And a few guys asked, by the way, have other guys asked you about? And I was like, I will ask her, but your love life.
Freaking lols, now you actually make me feel like a celebrity because they always do this.
Yeah.
I am literally a normal person, Rabia.
Well, they fancy you and they asked me to ask you, so I'm just doing my job. You're welcome, the 20 guys that messaged me.
Oh my God. This is hilarious. I'm actually really, really private about my love life.
I've never heard anything about that.
Yeah, it's just not a thing you need to air. You know, people actually think I'm like Moana. Have you seen Moana, guys? Yeah. So she owns an island. She doesn't have a prince.
It's a cartoon.
Yeah. So it's like she doesn't have the knight in shining armor. She has an island, and everyone's like, Rhona is Moana, but her island is Chelsea Dental Clinic. I'm like, no, that's not a thing. I am just very private about my love life, and I just try to, you know, be really professional about it. And and what's really interesting is that some of my influencer patients as well, they say to me that they have like boyfriends or whatever, or they're dating someone who never goes on their stories or anything. So I think, you know, there is parts of your life that does not have to go on social media.
Agreed. Okay. So your least favorite attribute about yourself?
Does it have to be one? Could it be more than one?
Fire away.
Okay.
I think this will make other people who hate you happy.
Okay, I think that I've got an inability to chill about dentistry, as in like I'm put a lot of pressure on myself. So I am really hard on myself about the work that I'm doing, or if I could have done better, or if I disappointed a patient.
So we don't need your criticism. She criticises herself.
So guys, note that I am already criticising myself, and The other thing is that I think that I can be really short-tempered. So if things don't go my well, yeah, I know Josh is like looking at me, look at her eyes, like I agree. Basically, I'm really, really, really bleak about patience, as in like I am so pedantic about the way things should be done. So if things aren't going, so like say there's a bit of like gingival bleeding and stuff and I can't control it, I'll be like, no, pass me this. And I get a bit like Steve Jobs micromanager, which obviously is not a good thing. And I am aware on it and I try and work on it. But the funny thing is that I think people know that I have a good heart, so they let me get away with it. Thanks team, love you team, sorry about my snapping team, and it's all for the patient. But I can't cope with stress.
Oh yeah.
As in like stress in the room, like I'm like, passing the traction cord, give me the LA. I'm like asking for 10 things at once and they literally like have no time to move.
And then afterwards you just smile and pretend like that was just normal. Like,
yeah, totally.
How are you? Thank you.
love you, thank you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no,
I think nurses hate dentists and they really should. They look through work so hard and I just am so grateful for that. But yeah, those two things are definitely above. I'm a multitasker, so I have really, really poor concentration. Like you could be talking to me right now and I would just zone out and then like change the subject like I'm uninterested, but it's not. It's because my attention span's gone.
Because you're completely forgot. I do that too.
Yes. Are you a millennial? Yeah, of course you are.
1990 baby.
Oh my God, you're a baby. I'm old.
You're not a 1990 baby?
1987. 32.
Okay.
Yeah. People are always like, she's so young. I'm like, I have been qualified 10 years. You know, I am not a baby, you know, yeah.
Did not realise that.
Yeah.
Murad skincare.
Yeah. All about that.
Yeah. Okay, so who is your biggest inspiration in life? Not dentistry, life.
Do you know what? It's going to be so cliche that I don't even want to say it.
Say it. It's true.
There is like, I think there's definitely like someone in the media in terms of, I look a lot up to strong, empowered women, and I want to say the person in my life, to be honest, is my dad, and that's because I know it's so cliche, it's so freaking cliche, but honestly, my dad is the nicest human being in the entire world. He's like this cute little Egyptian mushroom, and I just love him. And he is
a picture of him here.
Oh my God. Can I show you how baller my dad is? Actually, do you mind if I actually get my phone and show you?
Pull it out. Stand there.
You are going to die. Okay, wait for your reaction. So, are you ready for how baller my parents are? Now, take note on my dad's suit.
Oh my God, he's so cute. And who's a hot chick with him?
My mum.
Oh my God, explains why you're so hot.
But my dad is such a G, and like the thing is, I actually want to show you a little video of my dad because it's so funny. But with my dad, with my dad, he sacrificed a lot. He literally came to England with £10 in his pocket and worked in spaghetti house, like washing dishes to like put himself through medical school. And he's the most humble person in the world. And he actually sacrificed everything, every little bit that they had. And when we were younger, my parents weren't doing so well. It was really difficult. My dad was really struggling on the NHS, and everything went to my education. And so there was such a like strong emphasis on me doing well. Yeah. I think people always assume just because of my accent that like I was given everything on a plate, and it's absolutely not true. Like my parents have always taught me to value everything, and I think that's where my strong ethos comes from. Because particularly if you've got like immigrant parents, I think when they come to the UK, it's that whole thing of like we grafted, so therefore don't take it for advantage. And I think that I've really worked on that. My dad still he still treats me like his little princess. It's so cheesy and cliche, but I think that for me, honestly, he is my world. And when people meet him, they are so wowed by him. You would love him. Men are like, Dr. Eskander is goals. He is goals. Josh, is he not goals?
I love your dad.
Yeah, exactly. And he's the nicest, most smiley man in the world. And I think like he has but it's so funny. He's a gynecologist. He has 2 daughters, 5 sisters, and my mum. And he's like, I love women. I have them everywhere. You know? And it's just and I think that's the thing for me. It's been like lifetime sacrifice for me and my sister, and for me that's everything. So that definitely is the most inspirational person in my life.
Has your sister gone into dentistry?
No, my sister basically was an artist. Well, so what happened was, she was like, Dad, I don't want to do medicine. I want to be an artist. And then he was like, for what? To go and paint people in Piccadilly Circus, these caricatures? He was like, go get a real job. So my sister was like, okay, like I'll do architecture. So she did actually apply for dental school, and they brought her to the interview, and they were like, can you show us like some manual dexterity? Yeah.
I hate that
and then basically my sister was like, oh, I can draw a molar, and like gave this like really arty shot, and they're like, tell us about the NHS. She was like, I've also drawn the gums, you know, like, so they were like, she didn't get into dental school, and she did architecture, and she does set design, and she loves it. She's very arty, she's very creative, she has that mindset of like vision, and you know, she's done really cool projects. And so yeah, so we're totally different. But can I please just show you the video of my dad, because it's going to make you laugh so much. So he comes home, my dad, and he sits on my sofa, right? You ready for this? Fucking lols. Right. Look, he's playing Cola by Camel Fat. Wait for it.
Did you find the song?
Did you hear that? I Shazammed it. And he's just like so hilarious. Like, yeah, oh, look at this one. You'll love this one.
But he is a gangster. I love it. It's his favourite.
It's 50 Cent,
You
it's
do
his
his
favourite.
accent so
I know,
well.
it's an Egyptian accent, you know. Yeah, I can speak Arabic.
Amazing. I always wanted to learn.
Yeah.
Be my Arabic teacher.
Yeah, let's do it.
I want to hear you do some Arabic.
ازيك رابية? اسمك ايه?
How am I?
I said, how are you, Rabia? What's your name? Even though I said Rabia, so that didn't make any sense.
Gosh, you sound so good when you speak Arabic. You know all those single guys that message me are literally like dying right now.
It's hilarious.
So
I love a DM from like someone from like the Middle East or India. Like they really up their game. They offer me like 100 camels and like 10 like diamond rings. It's like, come on, English guys, up your game, you know.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
The queets. Do you ever get? You look so queet. You haven't got that
Queet,
yet?
no, not got that. Yeah.
It's sort of cute. They can't spell cute. What are you most afraid of?
No, I can't do that in Arabic, so we're good at that. What am I?
Spider.
I think that I'm most afraid of failure to provide the type of dentistry and practice for my patients that I want to.
Meeting expectations.
Yeah, and I think that that's what it is. I think that I recently, well, which guy that I'm going to nominate to you was one of my biggest inspirations in dentistry was a guy called Miguel Stanley. You have got to interview him.
You're doing that Instagram stars thing with him, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
know
he
about that.
is amazing. And one of the very first talks that I saw him do was that it wasn't about so much about a desire for success, but it's the absolute fear of failure that pushed him and drove him. And I think that's what pushes me all the time, you know. And so I think really it's that failure of delivering the kind of work that you want to do, which is probably a good and a bad thing, you know, and having the kind of practice that I want to. So doing the dentistry, that's what pushed me. I think when I was originally in an NHS practice where I was not enjoying the work that I was doing, it was that failure that I would never be at the top with the dentist that I admired, and that's pushed me.
So tell me, you mentioned the Instagram stars. Tell me about that.
Okay guys, I want to talk massively about the Instagram stars. Basically the Insta stars thing was really interesting. I have looked up to all those dentists on there, and do you know when they were like revealing each person?
Yeah.
What did you notice about all the reveals before I came on?
Your guys.
Yeah.
You're all men.
And basically I was like, okay, you know what? It's all men. They're all amazing, but I was like, why isn't there a dentist fronting this, a female? What's been my motto of this whole thing? You don't ask, you don't get. So I tried to contact the conference. I didn't know who was running it. I didn't know what it was. And I kept being directed to a chatbot, and I was like, damn you chatbots. So I started having a fight with the chatbot. And I was like, why isn't there a female on this like poll? And basically, you know, it was one of these like automated messages, and eventually someone did reply to me and was like, thank you so much for your message. And I was like, listen, every dentist on here is amazing and incredible, but I am really sad to see there's not a single female on there. And I think that there are so many female dentists and they don't have the courage to speak up and do things because they don't feel empowered. So maybe you should consider getting someone. And they kind of were like, oh, we'll take on your board's comments on board for next year. And I was like, okay, fine. And then I just gave them a list of like, you know, who I thought would have been suitable. Left it. And then I got an amazing message from the dental don, Christian Coachman, 2 days later. And it was a one-page email saying how he had seen my message and how he totally agreed with me and thought that there needs to be more women as leaders and at the forefront. And it was such an amazing message. And he said, I have told the course organisers that we cannot wait till next year, let alone another minute. You need to be part of this immediately. And I didn't expect that, but I just wanted, again, to be like, why isn't there someone? I didn't care if it was me or freaking Miss Little Sunshine, you know, like I didn't care who it was. I was like, I just need someone there to show and to like start a movement where we can be up there with the best, you know. And you know, they were all amazing, these guys. So all the men on there, they brought me on as a special guest, and I decided I could talk about everything, as in like I could talk about anything clinical. I could have talked about Invisalign bonding, but I chose to talk about female entrepreneurship. And my whole webinar is about how to become your own brand and how to deal with the challenges of being a female entrepreneur. So I want to inspire other women, and hopefully that's going to create a movement. And every year when they do conferences like this, they'll have key speakers on there.
Oh, you're so determined. She's awesome. Okay, so a dental colleague that you admire.
Okay, does this...
you can use this as a nomination if you want.
Oh God, but the thing is I've got so many colleagues that I admire, so it's really difficult. So for example, I admire Josh, who has been here the whole time. Josh is my practice manager and my TCO, and to me, she runs the show more than I do, way more, especially when it comes to patients. She is the one that is like front of house. She manages my patients. She like deals with complaints. She is amazing as a person, and she also deals with like helping me with my stress. That's amazing to me. My hygienist, London hygienist, which is going to be one of my nominations, by the way. And she was my nurse at my practice. So for example, when I was working in my mixed practice a few years ago, I met Anna. She came as a temp nurse. We hit it off. We had such banter, and she was like, oh yeah, I'm thinking about going to hygiene school, all this stuff. I was like, you definitely should do it. I helped her build a brand, and like, you know, she was also in the top 50 most influential dentists, and like as a hygienist, people were like, oh, you know, this is really controversial. I'm like, no, it's not. It's awesome. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's awesome. And I think that, you know, for me, she's someone that has totally broken the barrier of like hygiene and therapy. So I really do admire the people that I work in. I'm not just saying that because I'm in this interview, because genuinely they are what makes it happen for me, because I could not cope, as you said. All the stuff that you see now, like 70% is down to the team organising all it, managing patient expectations, talking to patients. Because like if they're doing half the work as well, like telling them how great I am with treatments and stuff, it's all that like circle of trust that's going on. People in my career that admire, you know, I've looked up to loads of young dentists, you know, so there are a lot of like kind of the female cohort. So I'd say people like Zainab, Slaney, Dr. Sheila is one of my favourites. Nomination, by the way. Oh my God, she's amazing. Dr. Tara Francis, that's another nomination for you. Okay. So they are two female dentists that are absolutely bossing it, but they support each other, and we all help each other. And I think like that's the key thing as well. You know, Celine Higton as well. She's a great dentist. You know, she's going to be on. Yeah, so she is. You know, she's hilarious. Yeah, and she's brilliant clinically as well. Yeah. So there's like loads of people like that, and then there's people as well that I think are so at the top of their game. So like Dr. Monic, who did my bonding, he's going to be on there too. And you know, I would nominate him as well, because he's been such an inspiration in the fact that he's so humble but so brilliant at what he does. Yourself, by the way. Nah, I'm average, and so humble. And then, you know, the other people that I look up to clinically, like Minash, you know, he's just unbelievable. Also, one of my really good friends, Rodri Thomas, I nominate him as well. Rodri Thomas. So I've given you lots. Teeth by Techie, one of the dentists that gets me in terms of like, he's all about patience. To the camera, he's a hard man to get a hold of. Teeth by Techie is somebody that I look up to, because he is all about patient connection and emotional connection. And me and him, when we're together, it's like loads of influencers I've treated, he's treated their best friends, and vice versa, because Techie is somebody that is all about the patient journey and experience, and we connect on that level, you know, massively. So there are so many. So there are really like so many, but I always say like your tribe is your vibe. So I always want to surround myself around people that I admire, and all those people there that I've just said to you, like Simon Shard as well, one of my really good friends, Nilesh Palmer, like the list goes on. Thank you so much, Rhona. You've been amazing. It's bloody good. Yeah, sorry.